Today I'm reviewing the Jewel's HSK, which is a fingertip only mouse. Probably the most interesting mouse shape released in all of 2020. It comes in the standard Jewel's packaging, although the sample tins tend to not have all the retail stuff, so inside we have just the mouse and the paintbrush. I don't know. So as you can tell, the shape is kind of weird. It looks like the front half of a mouse because it's designed only to be fingertipped. So a grip essentially like this or like this. No claw, no palm, fingertip only. Here it is next to XM1, Viper Mini, and 303. And here's an idea of the side profile. So it really is basically just the front of a mouse. The HSK weighs in at 37 grams on my scale. A little bit of cable. And speaking of the cable, it's not the detachable micro USB like the small skull or Hottie. This one's standard cable. It's paracord style. It's not super flexible. Reminds me kind of like maybe of the Ultralight 2 stock cable. And here's the HSK stock cable versus an XM1 with a G-Wolves stock cable. One of the spares that's included with the other mice. As far as the stock cable goes, it's not as nice as the other G-Wolves cables. It's definitely a little thicker and a little stiffer. Not sure why. The old ones that were included with their mice were always like basically the best stock cables you can get, so I don't know why they changed it up for this one, but not great. As far as the build quality of this mouse goes, it's really solid. It definitely doesn't feel like there's any cracks or creaks, barely any wobble on the buttons. There's no cracks or creaks, and I'm definitely squeezing it more than you would ever squeeze it in actual use, so seems great quality-wise as far as the shell goes. The sensor is a 3360, which is great. Nothing really to talk about. It works fine. Never had any problems with it. The coating seems just like standard kind of matte coating, kind of normal mouse coating. Nothing really to write home about. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. The clicks feel pretty good. They're pretty tactile. They're actually heavier feeling than the 80mm winos that I put into my G Pro Wireless. So whatever this implementation of what I believe is 20mm Omrons is, pretty tactile, definitely FPS focused. There's also obviously no side buttons, being that it's a fingertip only mouse. My only real gripe with this mouse, like build quality wise, is the wheel. It's got like a small wheel like the XM1, which I actually kind of like, and I think it feels great, like it's good tactility up and down, but in my opinion, the middle click is way too hard to press, where anytime I've tried to press it, I've found more times than not, I end up moving the mouse trying to press it straight down. So that's something that I think should be fixed if and when this mouse comes to market. I do like that they included the wheel, because obviously being such a weird mouse, having the wheel allows you to use it in more situations than just aiming or just playing games. You don't need to have a second mouse if you just always fingertip and don't rely on the side buttons. Here's a sound test. The feet it comes with are kind of thin. It's the front skates from Glorious mice. Kind of a weird decision because you have to use 2 sets to get all 4 rather than just use all 4 skates from a mouse that already exists. But I'm sure that replacement skates will be available even when this is released. There's also no software. There's basically like a tweet that someone wrote or a Reddit post that someone found where in order to change the polling rate, you have to sort of hold this button and click here. Otherwise, just doing this changes the DPI and the polling rate, I believe, at the same time, or something extremely weird. Basically, something that I don't think anybody would ever actually want to do. It is a report rate button, so you do expect it just to do the polling rate, but there was some sort of voodoo you had to do with holding a click and pressing it or something like that. I'll put a link to the instructions in the description of this video. So now that the basics of the mouse itself are covered, I could talk a little bit more about like what this mouse is like in use, since sadly I'm not the target demographic for this because I am a claw gripper. So switching to using something that's just purely fingertip grip was a little strange, but like it wasn't too bad, because I do feel like in certain situations in game, like I go from a claw grip to sort of like a very claw fingertip sort of hybrid, and then back to claw when I'm doing arm movements to finger movements. So I think I am switching between the two. So this didn't feel super crazy to me to actually use. That being said, I definitely am not like a full-time fingertip aimer. And I do unfortunately heavily rely on side buttons. So sadly, this is definitely not the mouse for me. However, I think that if I was someone who is in the market for something like the Saucony M1K, I would definitely try to give one of these a try first, considering how hard the M1K is to get and also the price difference. This seems like a good sort of way to test drive the desire for a true fingertip mouse. Speaking of the desire for another sort of true fingertip mouse, the last time that G-Wolves prototyped a mouse, they released it very quickly, and this review is pretty delayed just because of life stuff with me, but there doesn't seem to be much movement from G-Wolves on getting this mouse released or any hype or talk about it, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Maybe I have one of 50 copies of this crazy rare mouse, but I'm hoping that they release it, hoping that they fix how hard this middle click is, because I do think it's cool to have such a unique shape in the market. Definitely not my preferred shape, but I do appreciate the fact that this exists, and I think that it is probably a handful of people's perfect mouse. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching the video all the way through. Please like and sub. Thanks so much. Peace.